Hello and welcome back to my stamp studio. So today I wanted to talk about a fun technique that I guess I'm just calling watercolor flickering, speckling. I'm not sure what to call it. I just came across this technique when I was playing with the Poinsettia Petals bundle, which you can find on page 16 of the holiday catalog. It is, of course, part of a whole entire suite, the Poinsettia Place Suite, that has some beautiful coordinating products with this. But it's a photopolymer stamp set of 18 and coordinates with dies of 18 as well. So if you haven't already had a chance to look at this, take a look. It would be a great addition to anybody's stamp stash. But this technique I came across when I attempted the watercolor technique with this stamp set. And I hope the camera's picking this up. I just loved how this flickering came out. It really gives those petals a variegated look. And that is what I'm going to show you today, how I achieved this look. And then I'm going to build on it a little bit and show you two more techniques that I used that kind of take it to the next step. Okay? So let's get started. So I'm going to pull in my Stamparatus here. I have my Versamark ink pad and an embossing buddy. Remember, the embossing buddy is not current in the Stampin' Up! Catalog right now, but I do have extras in my stash that I bought some ahead. And so if anybody's interested in embossing folders, I certainly can get you one. And then I have some of the Fluid 100 watercolor paper. And basically what I've done is I've taken the three large poinsettia stamps from this set and put them on my clear plate. And I have figured out where they lie so that I can place my watercolor paper right here like this. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my embossing buddy and I'm just going to go over that watercolor paper generously. And then remember to keep the door or the plate of the Stamparatus completely level here. It makes it much easier to ink. I went ahead and just popped that stamp case right underneath there. It's the perfect height underneath that plate so that I have a nice level surface here to ink up my stamps. And I'm just going to go ahead and generously apply some Versamark ink to these. And then I'm going to swing it over. And I'm going to place it down on my watercolor paper. Now, as you know, our watercolor paper is quite heavy and has kind of a little bit of a texture to the paper. And so I really want to give this paper a chance to soak up that ink. One of the other reasons I really like to use the Stamparatus while I'm doing this is because I can come back over here and I actually, in a quick manner, can ink this back up again and come back over and double ink it so that if there were any areas that I happen to miss, we're going to catch that ink again and really give me some nice juicy ink on that paper. Okay? The reason I want that is because then I'm going to take my black embossing powder and I'm going to sprinkle it down over it, and I want to make sure that it catches all that beautiful inking. Okay, so you wouldn't have to double ink it, but I feel like with the Stamparatus, why not? You know it's going to be perfectly lined up for you to be able to do that again, and know that you got plenty of ink on there so that you then can pick up plenty of black embossing powder. Okay, for the sake of time, I'm not going to take time now to heat that up. I've already done one ahead of time here, and this is what it looks like after you heat it. All right, my next step is going to be to pull in something that I don't know if a lot of you have used anything like this before, but I have what I call a splatter box, and it basically is just a small cardboard box that I just put some paper towels in the bottom of that I use whenever I'm flecking something that I don't want it to splatter onto my work surface. And so that's what I pulled in here. I went ahead and I put those black embossed poinsettias down into the box. And I have one of the Stampin' Up! Spritzers here that I just filled with water. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to spritz a generous amount of water onto that watercolor paper. Okay? Now, I have two colors I'm using today. I'm using Flirty Flamingo and I'm using Real Red. And these colors have been absolutely stunning with these poinsettias. I'm also going to pull in my water painters. And Stampin' Up! Has gotten rid of the aqua painters, and we now have these water painters, and I'm falling in love with them. There's three. Let me just take a chance here to show you just a little bit. There's one that's really quite like a paintbrush. And then there's two others here. One that has kind of a medium-sized paintbrush, and one that has a small paintbrush. Comes in a pack of 3 here. As you can see, they all had lids on them, so you can keep them nice and protected. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the medium-sized water painter, and I'm going to dip it in to my Flirty Flamingo. Before, I should say after, I put the ink on here, I actually took and just drizzled some water out of my water painter and added it to the ink on this block, okay? It just makes it very light, okay? I'm going to go ahead and get quite a bit on there. And then I'm going to come in here, and I'm just going to take my finger, and I'm just going to flick some color down onto here, okay? Notice since I already have water on that paper, it's kind of already doing what I want it to do. It's creating this beautiful color on these. And I think I might have missed some here, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to add just a little bit more water there. I'm going to take my water painter and dab it off here. And then I'm going to come in and I'm just going to blend this Flirty Flamingo over the entire flower image. And I just want it to be very light and subtle color on here, okay? Already looks pretty, doesn't it? Just like that. Now my next step is to get my embossing gun in here. And I'm just going to take and I'm going to dry this off a little bit here, okay? And again, for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and pull that out. And I've already done one right here in the Flirty Flamingo, okay? My next step is to take that same aqua painter, dip into my block over here, and get myself a generous amount on there. And again, I'm just going to take it and I'm going to flicker right down onto those flowers. And I just love this effect on here. It really gives these petals that variegated look that makes us look so neat. Okay. Now, again, I'm going to take my embossing gun and we're going to dry it. And this time we are going to dry it because it's not going to take as long. There's just little flecks on here. And you can see how we're already starting to achieve that look, okay? Now, the aqua painters I have found, when we used to use them, we could squeeze out a lot of that color from the actual and be able to get a lot of that off from the brush tip. The water painters I'm finding I don't get as clean. So what I did was I basically just have an old mason jar here that I do take it just like a paintbrush if you were doing some watercoloring, that I dip in it to make sure that I get all that color out of there, okay, before I go on to my next color. Then I just take an old towel that I have and I'm just cleaning off the tip, okay? Now we're done with the Flirty Flamingo. I'm going to pull in the Real Red re-inker. Go ahead and add some water to this and kind of mix it around a little bit. And we're going to do that same exact thing. I'm going to take it and flicker it. Being careful not to get too close because I don't want to hit my project, but yet close enough that I can get the splatters that I want. And if you attempt this at home, which I hope you do, I actually think that you will fall in love with it. Mix and match different colors. Of course, I thought these colors made beautiful poinsettia colors. But play around with it and see the different looks that you can get. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and take my embossing gun again. Just going to tap over it here. Make sure that all those little dots are dry. Now you don't want to hover your embossing gun over that black embossing powder for too long because you could mess it up. It would reheat it and it would start to bubble. I've had that happen before. So don't spend an awful lot of time in one area. Just kind of shift and move your gun a little bit. If you have some areas that are very wet, sometimes you can come in here and just tap it too with your paper towel to be able to get some little puddles off if you need to, okay? All right, so there we have that. Isn't that beautiful? Just beautiful. Now, I'm going to take it and put my... Going to get my Big Shot plate underneath there, my die cutting machine plate underneath there. I need to start calling it that instead of Big Shot. It's not the Big Shot anymore. I'm going to go ahead and place my dies on there. Sometimes these are a little tricky to find exactly which one goes with which petal as you place them around. But the more you work with them, the more familiar you get and the easier it is. So right there, okay? I'm going to take this over and I'm going to put this through my Stampin' Up! Die cut and embossing machine, so bear with me. And here you have these beautiful flowers. Just gorgeous, aren't they? Now, all I simply did was take my multi-purpose glue. I put a little bit of glue in the centers of the larger one and the medium-sized one. And then I just stagger the petals, every other layer staggering, press firmly down in the middle. And then as part of this suite, we have these beautiful beaded pearl embellishments, and there's nothing more pretty than this gorgeous little pearl embellishment in the center of that. Okay? Just gorgeous. As this dries, to really bring it to life, I go around gently and I pull all these petals forward. Okay? Just gently, lightly, to really bring that flower to life then. Okay? So pretty. So that is how I achieved the look of this one. You can see by using varying shades, this one might have been just a little bit lighter on the Flirty Flamingo, that first coating that we did, but then you get that flecked kind of variegated petal. Okay? Now, let's step this up just a little bit, okay? Get rid of those. And we're going to deal a little bit more color than the Flirty Flamingo. This one, and the camera it might be hard to pick up on, but this one I did the same technique I just did with the first one. However, I used real red as my base color underneath there, okay? Then I'm going to go ahead and pull my splatter box back in and lay my project in here. And then this time I'm actually going to take more real red and splatter it. I grabbed this small brush. I think the medium brush works much better to fleck more, get more paint off there. And I'm dipping it right here into my real red ink refill that's been mixed with lots of water. It's kind of fun. I've had lots of ink on my fingers the last couple days. Really fun technique to play with. Go ahead and add some more here till you kind of get it the way you want it. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and use our embossing gun again to dry that layer. So this is just the red on red, but remember the first real red layer that I watercolored was a real light color, so that makes these little red splatterings show up much better. Now I was trying to make this look more realistic, and I kept thinking, gosh, you see those poinsettias that have that beautiful white fleck in the variegated leaf. And I thought, how can I get that white look? So I decided to use my Craft White, Whisper White, Great Inker. Okay? So I'm going to take that and put a little bit of that here. Now remember, it's a little bit thicker, so I really have to coax it out of there. There we go. That's a great plenty. And again, I'm going to take my medium-sized water painter after I clean it all off here. And I really want that to be clean because I'm going white here, all right? Okay, we're going to go ahead and we're going to squeeze some water out on that, and we're going to dilute our white craft ink. Okay, that was a big dot of ink, so I have plenty to be able to fleck. Okay, then I'm gently going to come back over here to my splatter box, and I'm just going to go ahead and flick that down. And look at the, oh, just gorgeous. That little white fleck on there. It really gives that such an interesting look. And notice I haven't even reapplied to my water painter. Okay, so pretty. Now I'm going to take my embossing gun and we're going to go ahead and heat that up. Keep in mind that, you know, craft ink can take a little bit longer to dry. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to blot a couple of those big flecks that I see. Gently come down and up, just to help them dry a little faster. So pretty. Now let me pull this out so you can really see it outside the box here and really see that white fleck on there. Okay, so again, you could take the dies and cut those out, and then this is a finished card that I made with that same technique. You can see those little white dots on there. So pretty. Now, if there isn't enough white flecks for you and you want a little bit more, remember that Stampin' Up! Has a chalk marker. And so you can easily go in here with a light hand and just go around, and you can add a few more little flecks in areas that you feel like might you want a little more coverage on to give you that little bit more of a white fleck too. Okay? But isn't that pretty? All right, now let's step this up even once more. Okay? So I loved this look. I thought this was really, really pretty. And to make this even more appropriate for all of my glitter lovers out there, I decided to use some of our shimmer paint, and I'm using the Frost White shimmer paint, okay? And remember that you mix that up in a little spray bottle, adding rubbing alcohol to it, and you do have to shake it up very well each time. I always make sure that the bottom is completely clean so that there's none stuck at the bottom and that it's all shook well. And then you simply take this and spray it over your project, over your beautiful flowers. And what that is going to create is this beautiful shimmer. And I hope, well, it's kind of picking it up a little bit there, but it just gives those petals just a beautiful holiday shimmer look. Of course, you can take your embossing gun again over it to be able to dry it. It is rubbing alcohol, so it should dry pretty quick. But it just makes these flowers absolutely gorgeous. And so let me show you those in a project. Here's a card that I did that same technique on, and I hope you're able to see that. It just gives those petals just this beautiful shimmer. I did the same thing with the leaves from the set. I just used some Granny Apple Green. I flecked it, kind of colored it all in, and then sprayed some of our shimmer paint over the top of it as well. Okay. So as you are thinking about this poinsettia set, if you're on the fence about it and haven't decided yet, I hope this puts you over the edge. It is absolutely stunning. And of course, these cards here are a little out of the box. These use a little different technique. Obviously, these look beautiful in reds and whites, and I've done a lot of cards with those as well. But I just thought this was a fun technique. Like I said, kind of not traditional Christmas colors, but I thought that this just showed off this flower beautifully. If you don't have the poinsettia set, I still hope you give this technique a try because I think it would work well with any large floral stamp and die set that you might have in your stamp stash. So thank you for joining me today for this quick little technique, and I hope that you do give it a try. Have a great day, be well, and stay safe.